Thank you so much for joining us. And a big thank you again to Abby and Melanoma Canada for joining us earlier with their amazing presentation. If you did miss the presentation, we will be posting it on our YouTube channel shortly, so you can absolutely check it out there. But it is time to cook. My name is Jeremy Capone. I am the wellness chef and joined, as always, by our amazing registered dietitian, Daniela. Hello.
Hi. So happy to be here. And so I'm a registered dietitian at Princess Margaret, and I have the pleasure of working with Jeremy with Community Connections. So I thought, the 3 recipes we're doing today, they are the miso mushroom noodle soup, a mango lime chicken in parchment, and ginger oat biscuits. And I think for today, we're kind of looking at focusing on maybe some side effects you might have, but always, as always, making sure that we have a good quality protein in our diet. So should we just get started, Jeremy, or what do you think? Yeah? Okay. So let me describe this first recipe. So miso mushroom noodle soup. This soup not only ups your fluid intake, which we definitely need if we're healthy or if we're not well, but it also bursts with flavor from the miso and the mushrooms. And I'm sure Jeremy will talk a bit more about our taste sensations there. The addition of the tofu boosts the protein intake, and it makes it a satisfying mini meal. So it could be a little meal on its own. It could be a snack with lots of healing power. Over to you, Jeremy.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, thank you, Daniela. So we're going to jump right into this soup. I love it because it definitely packs some great flavor in it, but it is pretty simple to make. Pretty quick, and we're only using a couple sort of flavorful umami packed ingredients to really boost the flavor of this dish. And so that's the first thing I'm going to start with. We're going to make a very, very quick broth, or we call it like a stock, I guess, but it is, we're going to be using dried mushrooms. So what I love about these dried mushrooms, and you can use any dried mushrooms, shiitake have a ton of flavor. That's usually the one I would probably go with this dish. I actually didn't have shiitake, I had porcini, which will also work really, really well. And these are great to keep in your pantry, especially if you don't have like a veg stock or a chicken stock on hand, and you're looking to make a soup, or you need something flavorful to like braise, like some chicken or beef or whatever. These little dried mushrooms with very minimal amounts, like even like 2 or 3 little dried mushrooms, you can create this incredible steeped broth, very flavorful mushroom broth. And so that's going to be the base for this noodle soup. And so I'm going to actually start there. And so I'm using this measuring cup just to really show you. You can do it right into your bowl if you're just making one, or into like your pot, like your soup pot. You see it there. You can do that as well. But I want to show you in the glass measuring cup so that you can see it sort of steep and take form. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is use some ginger. Great aromatic, lots of flavor, some beautiful aroma, and I'm just going to use a grater to just get a really, really, really fine mince. If you don't have a grater, and you can just chop it up or slice it with your knife. Make it easy for yourself. And this was actually from my freezer. So a nice little tip too. What I do when I buy like a bunch of ginger, probably not going to be using it all before it would start to shrivel up in the fridge. And I'm sure if you've purchased ginger before, sometimes you might find it months later. There's this like little root, this little hard root that's in your produce section of the fridge. So what I like to do is peel them and then stick them in a freezer bag and pop them in the freezer. And that way, when you need some fresh ginger, you can just grate it from frozen. It grates really, really easily, and it stores much, much longer. So there's a little ginger tip, and just grated some minced ginger in there. Then I'm going to take some of those dried mushrooms. We'll put those in. So this is about one portion that I'm making. So 2 would be fine. I'm going to throw in 3. Dried mushrooms, really easy. Again, any dried mushroom that you like or have. And these also store really well. They're dried, so you can just keep them in a jar, put them in your pantry, and just use them whenever you need. And then for some extra flavor, we are going to be using some miso. So miso is fermented soy, and you may have heard of miso soup. This is miso. This is what creates that miso soup. And so this is going to give us, again, some really nice flavor and some savoriness to our broth. Now, if you don't have miso, you can absolutely just do it like this. You can even use a little bit of bouillon, like a little stock cube, and you can put that in as well. So I'm going to use a little bit of this.
So the great thing about the combination, the miso and the ginger, if you're having some stomach upset or GI upset, there's a compound in the ginger that helps to decrease stomach acid secretions, and it also releases some enzymes that help with digestion. So it's probably why you hear a lot about ginger being helpful for reducing nausea. And then because the miso is a fermented product, it also can help with digestion. The only thing we need to be careful about with miso is that what is used for fermentation is a concern if your immune system is really low. So as Jeremy suggested, if your immune system is low, maybe opt for the stock, the bouillon cube right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we added some hot water just from a kettle, just cover it over everything, and then just let it steep. The mushrooms will start to reconstitute, they'll start to rehydrate, and they're going to start to release a lot of their flavor into the liquid. So the longer you leave it in there, a lot more of that flavor is going to sort of impact the liquid or the broth. It doesn't take too long, so even 5 minutes, as long as the noodles will take to cook, the broth will be ready. So I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to start with the noodles and hopefully have this entire dish wrapped up in 4 minutes, 5 minutes tops. I'll also mention really quickly to everyone watching, hello everyone that's watching, if you do have any questions for Daniela or myself, you can absolutely ask in the chat function on the side. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about cooking or nutrition, absolutely feel free to ask in the chat. Okay, so to the noodles, you can use really whatever you want. You can use rice noodles. You can use, these are ramen noodles. You can even use soba noodles. So it's really what you like. And then I guess, Daniela, in terms of nutrition, if you're looking for higher fiber, I guess
Yeah. So if you're looking for higher fiber, you can always use more of the whole grain pastas. But if we're focusing on, symptoms of treatment today and thinking about diarrhea, the lower fiber probably would be better. But otherwise, yeah, look, you can find whole grain pastas, and that would be the way to go if you wanted to up your fiber intake. But otherwise, this is great. Perfect. It makes me think, Jeremy, there's a patient in the hospital right now, and her son, he goes, look, I have these noodles here, and then she just adds some hot water. We boil some water and we just put it on, and then she has her little snack at night. So,
yeah, perfect. Keep it easy for yourself for sure. So yeah, we're using ramen noodles, and they take, cook whatever the package suggests. This says 4 minutes. Probably going to cook it for 3 minutes because I know that it's going to go back into some hot liquid and it's going to soften up, and I don't want to overcook them. So 3 minutes, and we'll finish the rest of this dish just in time. Okay, so this is really whatever you want in the soup. So if you like sliced carrots, If you like some peppers, make it your own, customize it. We're going with mushrooms, right? We have dried mushroom broth, and we're going to use some fresh mushrooms as well. So these are cremini. You can use any mushrooms, white button mushrooms. You can use oyster mushrooms if you want, enoki mushrooms. What I like about these is we're not really going to do much in terms of preparation. Just going to slice it really thin, put it in our bowl, and then we're going to cover it with our broth afterwards. Now, in terms of cleaning, I know, Danielle, we were talking a little bit about this before with cleaning. So I know, you probably see some videos and some instructions where they suggest, don't run them under water, just use a brush and brush off the dirt, one mushroom at a time. First of all, that might take a very long time to take out a little brush to brush off all the dirt of each of your mushrooms. And also you want to, you might not catch everything if you're brushing it as well. So what I like to do is I'll just wash them the way you would regularly wash your vegetables. Put them in a bowl with cold water, get all your mushrooms in there, and rinse them really, really well. Make sure you get all of that soil off of it, okay? Because these mushrooms, you'll find that they come sometimes with that soil that come from the ground, right? Mushrooms are, I don't know the exact number, but it's like over 90% water already. So they really don't absorb much water. I know that that's a common thing, like don't rinse your mushrooms, don't put your mushrooms in water because it's going to soak it up, it's going to make them mushy. Nonsense. Especially these button mushrooms and cremini mushrooms, they really don't soak up much water. If they take on a little bit of water, when you're cooking them, it'll evaporate in an extra 5 seconds. So I would rather, for me, rinse them really well, make sure that they're really nice and clean before you use them for preparation. Okay, so that's what I've done here. So I'm gonna just thinly slice them. Yeah, I think you can see on here, just really, really thinly. Now I don't need really much. I'm just gonna make one portion. We just slice just a little bit. And I'm also going to be using a little bit of green onion in here. Now, Daniela, in regards to, I know you were talking about diarrhea before. This is something we'd probably want to omit.
Yeah, so more so for gas, right? So if you're having symptoms of diarrhea and you also have gas, symptoms of intestinal gas, you may want to omit the onion. But the mushroom, the great thing about the mushroom is it also contains some soluble fiber. It contains something we call beta glucan. So beta glucan has antioxidant type properties, and it also is a soluble fiber. And what we mean about soluble fiber and why it's good for diarrhea is that it soaks up. It's a type of fiber that is okay. And if you have diarrhea, and it soaks up the liquid, so it kind of lessens the diarrhea you may have. And on the flip side, it's also good for constipation because it helps to soften the stool and make it easier to pass. So I know it's interesting, I'm talking about that in the midst of cooking, but it's life. It's life. We all experience it. And we want to eat. We want to eat well, too.
Absolutely. So we're pretty much done. We have our broth, it's been steeped. We have our noodles, the ramen noodles. They are cooked. And just make sure that you drain them really, really well. I don't want any of that excess starchy water in here. You can even rinse them with cold water if you want to remove any extra starch. I'm just giving them a really good shake to make sure that they're drained well. And because this is going to be a hot preparation, I'm just going to leave it as is without rinsing. And then we have our garnishes. We have our mushroom and our green onion. That's pretty much it. We are ready to assemble. So and we'll start off with our noodles in our bowl, trying not to get it blinded by the light here. There we go, you can see. And then I'll add our very thinly sliced mushrooms one side. And again, the green onion is optional. But in terms of the toppings and the vegetables, again, customize it, make it your own. Use whatever you like in here. An onion. And get it in a spot where you can see it. And then our broth, which has the miso. It has that flavor, that intense flavor from the dried mushroom and the ginger as well. I'm just going to pour that on top. You can, once it's reconstituted and it's soft, you can even slice up the dried mushroom if you want.
You read my mind. I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say too with the broth, taste it and season the way you like. Remember, if you are using miso, also if you're using a bouillon, it's going to have its own sodium. It's going to have its own salt. So you might not need to add any extra salt, but taste it and see where you need to go from there. But otherwise, that is it. I'm going to try to bring it as close to the camera without spilling it. And
looks great.
Yeah, very, very simple. Our mushroom miso noodle soup.
So Jeremy, if you wanted to add protein, can you add tofu to that? Or?
Yes, you can. And I had it here and forgot to add it. So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely add some tofu. So I have some soft tofu. And again, you can add like, leftover, if you have cooked chicken, from that you want to use up, warm that up and you can put that in there.
So when would you add it? Would you add it, I guess you would cook it first? No, heat it up?
Yeah, you could just add it right in, just like this. The warm broth will warm it up, but otherwise the soft tofu you can just add directly in, just like that.
Yeah, so by using the tofu, we're keeping it plant-based and you're getting a great source of protein from that as well.
Yeah, there we go again. Tofu blinds it a little bit, but there it is. There we go. Awesome. See, pretty quick, pretty easy. That is our first recipe.
Well done.